Right. Okay. I guess I might just start off by saying I am conscious of time. Um, I'm very, very thankful to everyone who's come so far. This is being recorded. I'll just There's two Donna O'Briens, but this is being recorded. So just be conscious of if you say anything. We're going to mute all the speakers or everyone bar myself, Colm and Eamon, when this begins, just for politeness and manners. If you do have any questions, redirect them to the chat box, and then we can come to you later on at the end of the presentation. And yeah, Stephen and Neve are going to be our security for the night. So I don't think anyone here is going to need to get kicked out. I know you all at this point. But yeah, thank you very much. Movember, I guess I should say, it started out in 2003 by a group of Australian friends who thought men are dying too young, and it's come a long way since there. And I just I set up a Movember UL a campaign last year in order to fundraise some money. And as of today, we've pretty much doubled the amount of money that we've raised in total last year. So I'm overwhelmed with the support. I want to say a massive thank you to our guests tonight, Colm and Eamon, who are Colm will be talking about motivation, and Eamon's going to be bringing us through a mindful moment at the beginning. So yeah, I guess without further ado, Stephen, do you want to mute everyone? And then maybe unmute the three of us, or do we unmute ourselves? This is a learning process.
I think we're still unmuted somehow.
Oh, well, that kind of works out perfectly.
I think maybe we were made co-host or something, and maybe that's what saved us from the muting.
Okay, perfect. Well, Eamon, if you want to begin the session.
Well, no bother. I would be absolutely honored to, Tarek. Thank you so much for having me. So I'll give you a quick 1 minute bio of myself. So my name is Eamon Smith. I'm a coach, mentor, teacher, and a keynote speaker. My area of expertise is behavior, emotion, mindset, mental health, well-being. And that wasn't always what I did. Once upon a time, I had major mental health issues involving breakdowns, near suicide situations. I would have been 3-4 stone heavier than I am now. Lots of addiction issues, lots of sort of all that kind of toxic life stuff was going on. Thankfully, these days life is getting better and better and better, and I'm honored to work in the area that I do. I'm going to share with you what I would call a tool, if you like. It is a tool. Meditation is a tool that you can use, and I strongly suggest that you do use. Often, it's not about sitting down on the top of a mountain for 400 hours. It's about consistency and repetition and building and neurons that wire together, fire together. And you can teach. If I can do this, everybody can do this. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to share for 2 minutes something that I highly recommend you do every day, at least once a day, as like a muscle, build it up. The whole idea of meditation is basically dropping into the space between your thoughts. It's extricating yourself from the clutter that is the chattering mind that we're all prone to when we're not paying attention, let's say. But there is a way to come out of that. And the easiest, most powerful way to do that is in meditation. So I'm going to take you through a guided, very powerful, very simple process that you can repeat on your own. So what I'll ask you to do is give yourself permission to just pause, close your eyes. If you can, sit up straight, get your back straight. If you're lying down, I want you to just make sure your spine is straight. And get yourself nice and comfortable. And just close your eyes and take a nice deep breath in for a count of 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And hold. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And breathing out. Exhale all the way out. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And hold again. And I'd like you to continue this cycle of breathing. I'll take you through a moment. Breathing all the way in. And now I want you to breathe all the way in, breathing all the way in. Keep breathing all the way in. Breathing all the way in. You're breathing in this light and love and energy for yourself. And you notice when you breathe all the way in, there's almost a pinch. At some point, you have to share, you have to release. And allow that to all flow back out of you. Emptying your lungs. Feeling your lungs empty right out. And empty them right out. And as you're exhaling, You know, as you come to a point where you just can't exhale anymore. There's nothing more to give. Now you got to receive. So breathe all the way back in again. Take that all in for yourself. And what I'd like to do is I'd like you to imagine yourself sitting under a waterfall, except this waterfall is made of pure light, pouring down on top of you. And all I want you to do is now spend a few moments breathing in light. Breathing it in. Imagine you breathing it into your heart. Holding it in your heart for a moment for yourself. And as you breathe out, allow this light to expand out through your body, out through your arms, out through your hands, down through your legs, down through your feet, expanding right out, back out into the world. The most important thing to do in order to give any contribution or service or add any value to the world, give it to yourself first. This is receiving. And the most powerful way to meditate, to ground yourself, is to focus on your breath for 1 minute. Just to breathe in, be conscious of your breathing, breathe in light, breathe in love. Hold it for yourself for a moment. And then as you breathe out, you can share this light, love, compassion, the wish to benefit others with the world. But remember to start with you first. And then share. And in your own time, I'll ask you slowly, gently. Nice deep breath. Open your eyes. Come back into the room. Namaste, folks. And remember, consistency is the key. It's not about sitting down for 4 hours at a time. A minute here, a minute there. Take that space, drop back in, connect. How am I being? What's the feeling I'm looking for? Practice. That's all it takes.
So Tarek, what do you want to do now? Do you want to me to kick off, or what do you got in mind?
Yeah, well, thank you very much for that, Eamon. Before we do, much appreciated. I will screen grab that clip and play it throughout the most sessions, the MoTalks. I guess Colm, I guess we'll move on to you and we'll kick off. So to anyone who doesn't know, Colm has just been an absolute godsend to me and for all these events. We got put in touch through a mutual connection, and Colm was like, "Oh, let's just schedule a meeting," and I was like, "Oh, okay, what's going on here?" And he's just been so full of advice that has just been so beneficial and helped me organize a lot of these the MoTalks that are going to be happening throughout the month. So before I even start off, I'd like to say a massive thank you for that, Colm. You really, when I say it, I really mean you have been a godsend. But yeah, also it's quite not ironic, but it's quite funny. Colm is responsible for my school lunches back in when I was in primary school. So it's quite nice to see the person who fed you all those years ago. And that's, I guess, I'll let Colm explain that in a minute. Actually, yeah, I guess, do you want to kind of talk a little bit about yourself and explain that?
Yeah, well, look, come here. I will accept that I'm a godsend, but that doesn't say anything about me. I was sent here to help you, no question. Right? You were put in touch with me, and I had no idea what you were, why we were connecting, but it became very obvious very quickly. And as it happens, Eamon Smith, and I hope you all enjoyed that. Maybe you'd give us a nod there. Did you enjoy Eamon's bit? I thought it was fantastic. Eamon's been doing that for some months now. It just came out of the blue. We got very badly Zoom bombed in a program I ran called the Coffee at 11 show. Eamon happened to be in the audience that day, and he rang me that evening and said, can I help? So from that, we've been working together ever since, and it's exactly why we were able to guide Tarek and Stephen into what needs to happen here to keep yourselves safe. So delighted to be here. So, when you reached out, I think Eamon and I are similar ilk in that if we're asked to help, we gladly do so if we can. And as it happens, we can. So delighted to be here. So well done, everybody. Congrats on the few bob you're raising. Probably bigger congrats on the movement that you're starting. And wish you all excellent results and great success with the MoTalks for the rest of the month. And delighted to be here on the first night, kicking it off. First night's usually the scary night, so Eamon and I are well used to scary nights, so we're fine to be here. And Eamon's just one of those all-around good guys. Every time I stumble across another network to help with, the first call is to Eamon, are you around? And of course he always is. So thank you, Eamon. And Donnacha, lovely to see you. Donnacha and I met through the Coffee at 11 show. Eamon and I met there, and Donnacha and I have just finished a very positive meeting about opportunity into the future. Exactly. Yeah. I love it. So that's it. You asked me to come in and do some motivation. I think the best way I'd like to approach that is tell a story, if that's okay. I've got a handful of slides with which to share and just tell the story over those slides, if that's okay.
100%. Yeah. Work away.
If Stephen will allow me, I'm sure I'm co-host, so I should be able to share my screen if that's okay. So will I drive on?
Yeah. Work away. The whole premise of these MoTalks is that I'm giving people a platform to share what they know best or to educate us in something new. So please crack on and enlighten us as to how we can be a bit more motivated and in these very extreme circumstances.
Very strange times. Well, I was, oops, there you go. There's my final slide. Just gave the game away. This is a live show. This is what happens.
I'll pretend I blinked.
Yeah. I can always change it. All right. So look, it's lovely to be here. Well done, Tarek. Well done, Stephen, and the ladies. And wish you every success with what's going on here. I prefer to tell a story than I'm definitely not a rah type of guy. I saw something on LinkedIn there half an hour ago, and it was sort of up there and pumping the stage and all the rest. That's absolutely not me. But I do like to tell stories that resonate with me. So I'm not going to rah you into getting your act together, but I am going to tell you a story, true story that happened to me, which put me on the path to us meeting here this evening, really. And I suppose what I want you to take from it is the fact that you need to be out there doing your thing. We'll touch on this in a little while. Out there doing your thing, which I'm sort of preaching to the choir here, ladies and gentlemen, because you're already out there doing your thing. But the benefits that you will gain from being out there doing your thing are immeasurable, and the benefits that you will grant others while you've been out there doing your thing also immeasurable. So continued success. So this is me. Colm O'Brien Motivation is the spin-off business from Carambola. Carambola is what Tarek was relating to earlier, talking about a school. We fed Tarek and his cohorts when he was a young fella. So maybe we've got the chat box there. So would people perhaps put an answer to this question in the chat box, please? And the first person, the first correct answer goes in here. We'll get a free copy of my book, Feeding Johnny. So complete the following sentence, please, by typing your answer into the chat box, please. And Eamon, you might keep an eye to see who's the first winner, if you wouldn't mind. Thank you for that. Sometimes I win and sometimes I. Answers in the chat box, please. I love it. So, Niamh, unfortunately, you weren't correct, even though it's the most obvious answer. And I see Movember UL, which happens to be Mr. Tarek himself. He's the winner tonight. Stephen just in, about a nanosecond behind him. Sorry about that. Okay. So sometimes I win, sometimes I learn is the correct response. However, here's the problem, right? Niamh, you are actually correct, because we've all been taught that if you didn't win, you're out there playing a game and you didn't win, well, you lost, simple as. I like to use Munster Rugby by way of example here. Professionals never lose, by the way. Professionals never lose. And the reason I can say professionals never lose is if you consider Munster Rugby, for example, or any professional team of any sport, they don't win every game. They don't go out and put enough points on the board every time to be considered the winners on the night. However, those, if they fall behind the leader in any particular game. The professionals go back to the dressing room. They don't suck their thumb and go back to Mammy and say, I'm not going out there again. They go back into the dressing room and they watch the replay and they figure out what didn't work for them. And that's why sometimes I win and sometimes I learn is the only way to approach life. You will not win every game. You will not win every battle. You will not win every moment. That doesn't matter. The only question is what do you learn from it? So that's been sort of the story of my journey for years. I'm from Dublin. I'm a Dub. Any Dubs in the room? Don't be shaking your head there, Stephen. It's shocking. I'm a Munster fan, by the way, but no Dubs in the room. I see a chap. I can't see everybody's face, so you'll have to bear with me if I'm missing something here. But I am from Dublin originally, and Stephen's from Kerry. I love it. Good stuff from the kingdom. I moved to Limerick in 1998. I used to manage Bewley's Cafe on Grafton Street. That's why I put that slide in there. I'm quite sure most of you will know that place. You would have been there at some point in your youth. You're still young, but in your youth. And came down to Limerick in 1998. And we took on the Bewley's Cafe in Cruises Street in Limerick, which is no longer there. And I suspect you student types are too young to even remember it being there. You're probably wheeled in by your mas and das in buggies. This is back in the early 2000s. And moved to Limerick in 1998, took on that cafe. You can see the statue there in that picture, so that'll give you an indication of where it is, right in the middle of Cruises Street. And that building that was Bewley's Cafe is now New Look, or at least was New Look before lockdown. Don't know what's happened in the city centre since. That business failed. So I'm your first official failure to have on your MoTalks, Tarek, so thank you for that honour. But that business failed. And what I want to talk to you about is the perfect storm that allowed that business to fail, or caused that business to fail perhaps, because we're going through difficult times. You guys are going through difficult times. It must be very strange for you, having been to college in the traditional sense for the last number of years, and now to see it locked down and to see it, devoid of people. Two of my children, both adult, 27-year-old boy, man, he is doing a master's in UL, started in September, but he hasn't been to UL yet. And our youngest, she's 19, doing law, and she hasn't been to UL yet because of the very strange times we're in. So the point there is circumstances beyond your and my control can oftentimes have a significant impact on the path that we're on. So, we moved to Limerick in 1998 expecting this business to work, and it didn't. It failed. But it didn't fail because we didn't work hard enough at it. It failed for reasons largely outside our control. And I want to just tell you what those were. 4 elements in a perfect storm that, if they'd come along one at a time, might not have culminated in a perfect storm that killed us, right? But they all happened concurrently and consecutively, and that's what killed us. So the first one was around the turn of the century, and I will blame your parents for this, right? Happily, the younger generation, younger than me, that is, and older than ye, wanted wraps and paninis and lattes and cappuccinos at the turn of the century, and that was new fare into Ireland, and it was stuff that Bewley's, the brand that I represented, it wasn't known for. Bewley's was known for bacon, egg and sausage, real butter, brown bread, tea leaves. There were only 2 coffees in Ireland back in the day, around the turn of the century, black or white. That was it, right? And Bewley's was absolutely expert at both. Best black or white coffee on the planet, okay? And then the generation of your parents wanted some fancy stuff. Bewley's couldn't respond in time. So the business in general for Bewley's cafes around the country, including ours in Limerick, began a slow decline around the turn of the century. And that was the first sign that there was something happening on the horizon. Beyond our control, the marketplace just shifted. Second thing that happened, just as that slide was beginning, was foot and mouth disease hit. And when foot and mouth disease hit, which is a bovine disease, very contagious, the government, no more than what's happening now, the government basically locked down the country and asked the people in the hinterlands around the cities not to go into the cities because they might spread the disease. And so the people stayed at home. Hey, it's like history repeating itself. People stayed at home. And that allowed that disease to wind its way out of our society over about 6 months. However, in those 6 months, our business, because they were told not to go into the cities, our business dropped by literally 20% overnight. It was like somebody turned off a tap and it just went flat by 20%. That was a big problem for us. So declining market share followed by huge drop in sales was significant for us, but not catastrophic. Then what happened? The third thing happened was 9/11. You'll remember 9/11, I'm sure. So 9/11 happened. And then the question becomes, well, Colm, that happened in New York. Why are you blaming it for the failure of your business in Limerick? Well, let me explain. The reason 9/11 had an impact on our business in Limerick was the Americans never flew back in to Shannon, right? That was the link. So our business had been growing steadily, slow decline around the turn of the century for the reasons I mentioned, dropped 20% because of foot and mouth disease, bumped along for 6 months, and then stayed flat for another 18 months because of 9/11. That was like 2 years of flat sales. And on top of all that, the fourth and final nail in our coffin, fourth and final element in our perfect storm was a rent increase. It was those Celtic Tiger days. You may have heard that phrase, but I refer to it in my book as the fecking Celtic Tiger. So the fecking Celtic Tiger created this madness in Irish society that had everybody believe that their property was just going up and up and up and up and up in value. And every morning you'd wake up and your house was apparently worth so much more money. All untrue. But the impact that had in our business was if property was going up, the property we rented in Cruises Street was going up in a paper value, and our landlord sought a rent increase, which we fought, went to arbitration. But at arbitration, he was awarded a rent increase up to €1,000 for renting a coffee shop, right? €1,000. But here's the problem. Thank you for the little shake of the head there, Stephen. Here's the problem. It was €1,000 every day, right? For a coffee shop in Cruises Street in Limerick, which is Ireland's third city. So absolute madness. And that effectively killed our business. However, sometimes we win and sometimes we learn. Isn't that right? Sometimes we win and sometimes we learn. So these were the lessons we learned from that very painful period. Wouldn't wish them on anybody, wouldn't want to go back to do them again, but we learned, right? It gave us vital experience and exposure. Me stepping out of the corporate world, because I was in the corporate world for 20 years before we came to Limerick. Me stepping out of the corporate world to start my own business. That step in itself, you could rue that if you looked at this in a particular way, but I didn't. It gave us vital experience and exposure. The failure of the cafe forced us to look for opportunity. And I do think that's one of the things that's coming out of Ireland and, dare I say, Scotland there with Donnacha in the room because of COVID. It's forcing people to look for opportunity, forcing more people to bet on themselves. We created our first brand called Cruises Coffee Company. Where did we get the name Cruises Coffee Company from? Ta-da! Cruises Street in Limerick. We're not very bright, but we're observant. And we learned how to bounce back. And the biggest lesson I learned through that whole period is failure is not the end of the world. We did not fail. Our business failed. Our business failed. We did not fail. It took us a long time to get our heads around that, okay? But they're completely separate things. You're separate to your career. You're even separate to your studies, right? So if an exam doesn't go your way, don't worry about it. The exam didn't go your way. Right? It's not a reflection on you unless you didn't do the work. Okay, we created Cruises Coffee Company and we moved the brand Cruises Coffee Company to Dublin. This is me trying to trade my way out of the problem. By creating Cruises Coffee Company, we took the Bewley's name off the door, handed it back to the great people in Bewley's. That saved us about 50 grand a year in franchise fees. But here's the problem, at €1,000 per day rent, all that did was keep us alive for 50 more days. It wasn't a panacea. It was never going to fix the problem. So tried to trade our way out of it by creating Cruises Coffee Company, and that's the brand there. And you can see the image of the statue on Cruises Street. Can you see her reflected in that character? We called her Esmeralda. And again, don't tell anybody, but the inspiration for that shape came from that. We didn't steal anybody's idea, but the inspiration for that icon. She became the I in the word cruises, and she's holding a coffee bean, not a tambourine. And that's the Liffey Boardwalk in Dublin. And we set those up in 2003. And this is where the story changes for the better. Yay, right? So I'm living in Limerick at this stage, and I'm beginning to trade back in Dublin, which is my hometown. And I'm up and down regularly to keep an eye on that new business. And I don't like driving, never have, I still don't to this day. So I'd take the train as often as I could. I'm on the train one day and I met this guy on the train. And we were both sitting, I was sitting in the aisle seat, he was sitting in the window seat, both facing forward as the train took off out of Colbert Station. And we spent the whole sort of nodded at each other and then got on with our work. This is back in 2003. And I can't remember, did we have laptops, but it doesn't matter. We were both working at whatever we were working at the time. And only when we came close to Dublin did I engage in conversation with this guy, because I like my own peace and quiet, and you get talking to a talker and, you get nothing done. So as it happens, both of us wanted to get our work done. When we got to the outskirts of Dublin, we began a conversation. And as part of the conversation in business circles, oftentimes you'll hand somebody your business card. Okay, I don't know what it's like these days. I presume all you do is tap your iPhones or something, and that's it. That's what happens. You're connected, right? Something like that. Back in the day, it was bits of paper, and we swapped business cards. And on the back of my business card, it wasn't a carambola card. That's my school meals card. It was a Cruises coffee card. But on my business card at the time was that strap line. See the strap line in the little speech bubble there? How can I help? And so my man says to me, he says, what does that mean? And I said, what mean? He says, what does that strap line mean? How can I help? And I said, oh, that's my offer to the universe. True as God. I said, that's my offer to the universe. If you think I can help you in any way, pick up the phone, give me a shout. If I can help you, I will. If I can't, I might find somebody who can. Simple as. He said, that's very interesting. And he tucked my card into his breast pocket and he never rang me, right? Didn't expect him to ring me. Didn't bother me that he didn't ring me. Didn't even know that he hadn't rang me, right? It was just one of those, tiny bumps in the universe, right? And I see somebody wanting to come in there, lads. Cool. Anyway, it's a tiny bump in the universe, right? And so he pockets my card, never rings me. But here's what happened. This tiny bump in the universe. The man on the train went back to Limerick that evening. He was working with a crowd in Limerick called Paul Partnership, a social inclusion group. You may have come across them. And he gave my card to his boss and said, if you're ever doing something in food, give this guy O'Brien a shout. Cruises Coffee Company, based in the city there. Give him a shout. He might be able to help you. 3 months later, the boss rang me and said, you met this guy on the train. He gave me your card. I see it says, how can I help? So you're in the food game. He says to me, are you interested in doing a pilot project for healthy school lunches in Moyross in Limerick? And I said, I am. And he said, well, we're going to run a tender. Are you interested in tendering? Now, I was delighted to get this call, right? Because my business was dying. And I was thinking, happy days, this could be the saving grace. But of course, I was dead cool on the phone and said, look, yeah, we could probably look at something like that. Let's have a cup of coffee and a chat. So he came down, we had a cup of coffee. We decided to throw in our hat in the ring for the tender. We won the tender. And it turns out we learned 2 years later, nobody else even tendered. Nobody else even tendered to this thing, right? It wasn't that we were even any good. We just won it because we turned up, right? The second thing that's in that story that's mad is the guy on the train. Guy on the train left the organization. Between the time he gave my card to his boss and the boss ringing me, he had left. He'd only been there for a short few months and our paths crossed, right? What came from that meeting, the man on the train? What came from the meeting was carambola, the school meals business. The number of lunches we provided on day one to a school in Moyross was 27. And the number of lunches that the carambola team produced and delivered today all around the country was 30,000. 30,000 lunches in one day. And that all came from the man on the train meeting. The second thing in terms of the sales, because people are often interested in the money side of things, right? Our sales on day one was €32, right? So the man on the train meeting and the phone call and the subsequent tendering and all the rest of it landed us a contract for €32 our first day, right? Wasn't exactly life-changing. Sales per day now, 45 grand per day, right? Ladies and gentlemen, was that a good meeting? Thumbs up. Was that a good meeting? Thumbs and feet up and everything. As one of my favorite Limerick isms is you can chalk it down. There was a great meeting. Is that okay? Great meeting. There's one for everybody in the audience. You're all familiar with that fella there, right? And that's really where I wanted to bring this story. This isn't about me. I'm just telling you my story to get you thinking, right? There is absolutely 100% a man on the train moment awaiting you in the universe with your name on it. 2 criteria must apply if you're going to bump into your man on the train moment. First criterion, you must be out there doing your thing, which is why I said at the start of this, I'm preaching to the choir here. You're out there doing your thing. Hats off to you, Bula Bus. You must put yourself in the way of success, whatever success is going to be for you, whatever the universe has for you. You must put yourself in the way of it. Think about it for a second. I'm only talking to you guys this evening because of that man on the train moment, right? Only that's all. And if you imagine, I was living in Duradoyle at the time. Can you imagine the probability of him ever arriving into Duradoyle, finding my door, knocking on it, saying, "Sorry to disturb Coronation Street. I've got an opportunity that will change your life and change the life of hundreds of people, thousands of people and clients all around the country." Could that ever have happened? And I'd suggest, no, it could never have happened. So the first thing you must do is be out there to do your thing. The second thing, and the reason that he handed my card to his boss, was of the offer to help. You must be out there to be of service first. Stop selling, start serving. Because had I handed him my card, remember my business was dying at the time, right? Had I handed him my card and say, "Come here, buddy, who are you involved with? Paul Partnership? Do you think they could buy sandwiches off us? Do you think we could sell them coffee? How could how could you buy something from me?" If I'd taken that approach to him, he would have binned my card the same way most salespeople get their cards binned. It was the offer to help that transformed that man on the train moment into something magical. And there's one for everybody in the audience. Be out there doing your thing, folks. Keep out there doing your thing and be out there to be of service first. And then I wrote Feeding Johnny. And Feeding Johnny has now turned into Feeding Tarek. But we did feed Tarek, as it happens, back in the day, and no wonder you're looking healthy and well, Tarek. But it has been a great pleasure to have known that you're one of our clients. Wigwam has come from that. Wigwam business coaching has come from that, this is the next thing, I suppose, that's evolved as a result of me meeting the man on the train. It's an acronym: Wonderfully Important Goals Weekly Accountability Meeting. Basically, it's a mastermind group for business owners or for heads of departments. It works equally well for both. But this is a very exciting business that I've kicked off in the last year, and it's the follow-on from Carambola. I'm taking the principles that I learned in Carambola and I'm applying them into this new business, which has global reach, and it is very exciting. And all of that came from the man on the train moment. So how can I help you guys? I'm sharing my story this evening. I'm hoping you're taking it in the spirit in which it's intended. I'm not showing off. I'm not saying we did €32 then and 45 grand today per day to show off. I'm just showing you what can happen. So the motivation to keep going back in the day for me was my cafe failed. Let's be honest. My cafe failed. My back was to the wall. I had to do something. This is what came from it. Okay. Nothing's going to happen. For things to change, things must change. If you're not doing the work that needs to be done now, for things to change, things must change. You're going to have to find it down somewhere, whatever it might be. I was actually thinking, Tarek, this is slightly off-piste, but I think it's worth saying. Perhaps Wigwam, the concept behind Wigwam, this weekly accountability meeting, could be a very good way to keep students, third-level students, engaged and keep them accountable to themselves, because they'll do so. We'll often hold ourselves accountable to ourselves in front of our peers more than we will to ourselves in private. So maybe that's something we could explore. Maybe there's an opportunity for we're going to be of service to you and your cohort somehow. I'm only thinking out loud. That just popped into my head. Okay, but how can I help in the meantime? Free version of the audiobook. Tarek wins the printed version, signed for eBay down the road, right? Autographed for eBay, right? But he gets that for being the biggest lick tonight, right?
I swear it wasn't a setup.
No, it wasn't a setup, no. But look, but if you want the audiobook with my compliments, and it's yours truly narrating, so you get all the double knees thrown into it, colmrunmotivation.com/freebie with my compliments. And I started this vlog podcast. It started off as a blog, turned into a vlog and podcast, and with Eamon's help, it's actually gone out to an audience of 2.5 million people every Sunday. Clearly, they're not all sitting up in bed waiting for it, and they don't all engage with it. But it's sitting there available to 2.5 million people every Sunday. And one of my favorite ones, and Donncha and I were talking about this a little over an hour ago, is to stop selling, start serving. And it's just that servant attitude. There's Eamon Smith, lives it daily, right? Servant attitude. And you would not believe the magic that happens if you approach life with a servant attitude. So if you'd like to have a look at that, that blog vlog podcast, it's all there. colmomotivation.com/serve. And here's a slide we never saw before. Thank you.
Thank you, Colm.
I hope that's been of use, and happy to take questions or do whatever you wish. I'm going to stop sharing now, if I may. Sorry, Tarek. Listen, well done, Stephen. Well done for keeping us safe tonight. Thank you for being here, all of us. It's 7 bells, so don't delay you all, but well done.
Yeah, a massive thank you again, Colm and Eamon, for all your help, and Donna, you chimed in there with some pretty good advice as well. But thank you for coming on tonight. Really, it means a lot, and thank you for all your help, and especially with the security session last night. That it's really all very much appreciated. I guess as well, it's quite nice that it's kind of come full circle in that you invited me to be your first for season 2. And now you have been my first for my season 2 of MoTalks. So, as the ancient Greeks said, everything has to come full circle for a beautiful story. So, much appreciated. And if anyone here in the audience is interested, tomorrow night's speaker is Mr. Gay Ireland himself, Lorcan McAuliffe. He is talking about transphobia and homophobia and what we can do to be a little more proactive in stopping that and preventing it from becoming an issue in the future. So same link, same time, same place. So I welcome you then. If I might suggest, well, do you know what? Actually, Colm and Eamon had a very nice alternative type of clapping. It was the sign language type of clapping, and it's quite nice if you're muted. And you learn a little bit of sign language. But yeah, so thank you very much for coming. Pardon?
That's the deaf applause, isn't it?
Deaf applause, yeah, deaf community applause. Yeah. Listen, come here, well done, Tarek, Stephen, Neve, Mary Ellen, and I see Susan in there, so we didn't get to chat, but congratulations, you've broken the ice. Big deal. Well done, and delighted to be here, and I hope us being here with our experience maybe took some of the nerves edge off for you. And you're off. It's going to be a great season.
Keep jumping out of those comfort zones, guys. The comfort zone is the desert. Get comfortable with being uncomfortable. It's completely okay, right? It's only uncomfortable because it's unfamiliar. You haven't done it before. Look how much second nature this is going to feel by tomorrow.
Yeah.
So, and well done. Brilliant effort.
Thank you.
So we'll give you the Bula bus. That's us to you, right?
Yeah.
All right.
Well, yeah. Well, have a lovely evening, everyone.